even 1 inch further, let me be clear about who is standing here. My name is Laura Louise Blott. I'm not a doctor, I'm a researcher. I spent 35 years building businesses and running investment products on Wall Street. And I've spent more than 43 years reading the studies, testing the protocols on my own body, and keeping what worked and discarding everything else. Everything I share with you today is what I learned and what I have lived. It's not medical advice, and it's never a substitute for your own physician. So take what serves you, talk to your own doctor about your own body, and hold the rest because it's valuable. With that said, let me tell you why I wrote this book. I wrote it because I spent most of my life learning how to keep my body strong enough and my mind clear enough to carry out the life that I wanted to live. That is what the Saving 7 is, a way back to your energy, your vitality, your focus, and a future that you're excited about. Sugar is one of the foundational pieces of that, one that changes the game for your energy, your vitality, and your cognition. It's not the whole story, but it is where my story begins. So that's where I want to start with you today. So I was 4 years old the first time sugar lied to me. We were in Barbados with my parents, my grandparents, and my brother on my birthday trip, turning 4. We toured a sugarcane factory, and on the way out, someone handed me a big piece of raw sugarcane, straight from the field. I put it in my mouth, and I thought it was the best thing I had ever tasted, and I can remember it to this day. My mom couldn't get it away from me. And then we got to the car, and something happened. I crashed. Not the car, just me. And it was a hard crash. I went from this lit-up little girl to wrecked in the space of a short drive. I didn't have the words for it back then. I mean, I was 4, but my body had them. My body understood something that day that would take me another 14 years to say out loud. My body loved it, and then it punished me for it. That is the story of sugar in a single afternoon, and it turned out to be the story of my whole young life. Because at 17, in my senior year of high school, a virus moved into my body. I didn't know what it was yet, and it didn't have a name yet. That was the year I began what became a 43-year relationship with sugar. Not a love affair, a fight. I was so exhausted during that year, I couldn't keep my eyes open. I came home from school and crawled into bed with chills, and I looked green in every photograph of my senior year. But my first year of college, I had recovered. I thought, okay, I put that behind me. It was not behind me. By the time I graduated college and started working, I was 21. I had relapsed, and I found myself falling asleep in a puddle of drool on the way home from New York City on the shoulder of a stranger because I was too depleted to hold myself up. One doctor told me he thought I had leukemia. Not very responsible, I might add. But that was very upsetting to me because my first cousin had actually died of leukemia when he was 2. I sat with that terror alone, didn't tell anybody, and I prayed. Thankfully, it was not leukemia. It was chronic Epstein-Barr syndrome and a severe outbreak of yeast in my blood and a body too run down to fight anymore. And here's the sentence that started this book. I got well not out of inspiration. I got well out of desperation. I read something like 100 books in that season of my life. I studied every protocol I could find, the Mediterranean diet, the Atkins diet, the Okinawa protocol about the people who lived the longest on planet Earth. I ended up becoming a patient of Dr. Robert Atkins himself at his clinic in Manhattan. And there I watched people get off their medications for heart disease and diabetes right before my very eyes. And somewhere in that mountain of research, I found the thread that changed everything. The thread was sugar. So here's what I want you to understand. This is not just a book about sugar at all. This is a book about a protocol that I created through trial and error over many years, one that has become a way of life for me. It brings back your energy, your vitality, and your cognition, and it promotes longevity. Sugar is one of the fundamental principles inside of it. One important piece, not the whole thing. It lives in chapter 2 as the antagonist, the enemy I name before I hand you a single solution. And I give it this much weight for one reason. It's not because sugar makes you gain weight, although it can. It's because sugar sits at the exact intersection of the 3 things you came here for: energy, vitality, and cognition. Get sugar wrong, and you lose all 3. get sugar right, and you unlock all three all at once. Few things in your health give you that much leverage from one single decision. But I have to be careful with the word, because this is where good people get confused and stay sick. When I say sugar is the enemy, I do not mean the natural sweetness inside of an apple. I do not mean the carbohydrates in a sweet potato or a bowl of greens. Those came out of the ground the way God made them, and your body has known how to handle them since the beginning of time. I mean sugar, the commodity, the refined, the added to, the stripped down kind. And here's the test I want to hand out to you today, one that you can run for the rest of your life. Did this come out of the ground the way it is, or did someone build it out of parts? Live food grew. Contrived food was assembled. An apple grew. A cookie was manufactured. A carrot grew. A Twinkie was built in a factory. That's the difference between real food and a product. Now, let me show you why it matters. And I'm going to do it with a picture, because a picture paints 1,000 words, and facts are easy to forget. So I want you to think of your body as a fire. Every cell in you is burning fuel right now to keep you alive, the same way a fire warms a room. So the only question that matters is what you throw on it. Simple sugar is a fistful of dry paper. Toss it on the fire, you get this beautiful flare, right? Bright, fast, hot, and then just as fast, nothing. The paper's gone, the room goes cold, and your body goes looking for more paper within the hour. That is the sugar high and the crash. That is the 2 o'clock reach for the cookie. The flare was never the energy. It was a fire eating itself. A whole food carbohydrate is a log. It catches slowly and it burns steadily and warms for hours. No spike, no crash, no frantic reach for the next thing. Same fuel in the end. One abandons you, one keeps you warm all night. Learn to see the log and the paper on your own plate, and you'll never again wonder why one meal leaves you juiced and the next meal leaves you drained. But there is a deeper crime, and this is the thing that turns sugar from a bad habit into the villain of my book. In my 20s, buried in research, I found a book that stopped me cold, and it laid out how sugar feeds the parasites, the yeast, the quiet opportunists that live in our bodies, all of our bodies, waiting for their moment. And I realized that I've been living that exact loop. My blood was riddled with yeast, and the yeast itself was craving the sugar. So the more run down I got, the more I craved the sugar, the very thing feeding both the Epstein-Barr virus and the yeast, and ultimately making me sicker. Here's how I say it now. Sugar acts as the fuel for the very thing you are trying to combat, the virus, the bacteria, the parasite. You think you're feeding yourself, but you're feeding the enemy. Now, I'm a researcher, not a physician, and I would never hand you a grocery list and call it a cure for any disease. But this I know, from the literature and from 43 years inside my own body. The things that want to overtake you are hungry. The things living in your body, they're hungry. And sugar is what they're hungry for. Starve them, and you take back ground. Now, let me give you 3 words the medical world throws around like everybody went to medical school. I did not, and most of you did not either. So I'm going to say them the way I wish someone had said them to me all those years ago. The first is ATP. ATP is the energy you actually spend, not the food on your plate, the fuel your cells make from that food. Every heartbeat, every thought, every time you stand up from a chair, you are burning ATP as fuel. And you make it fresh all day long, every day, inside millions of tiny engines in your cells called mitochondria. Run those engines clean, and you feel it as energy. Run them dirty, and you feel the crash, the fog, the kind of tired that a full night of sleep somehow never touches. The second word is glycation. Sugar is sticky. We know this from cotton candy, or if you've had a candy bar in your hand. When there's too much of it in your blood, it's also sticky. It latches onto your proteins and it won't let go. It's the same reaction that browns a steak in a pan or crisps a holiday ham, except now it's happening inside of you, on your arteries, on the collagen that exists under your skin, on your nerves. Your doctor already measures it and has a good name for it. That A1C number on your blood work is a reading of how much sugar has glued itself to your cells. And when glycation runs long enough, it leaves something far more dangerous behind, AGEs, advanced glycation end products. Read that word again. Yes, age. Guess what? They age you. They are damaged proteins, stiffened and scarred by sugar, and they accumulate in your tissues over the years. They harden what used to be supple. They wear down your mitochondria, the engines that make your energy. So here's the whole chain in one breath. Too much sugar leads to glycation. Glycation leaves behind AGEs. AGEs wear down your mitochondria. Worn down mitochondria makes less ATP, that's your fuel. And less ATP is exactly what you feel as low energy, a dull mind, and a body that can't keep up. Read the chain forward, and it's a slow sentence of decline. But it runs both ways. Take the sugar away, and every link reverses one by one until your energy comes home. That is one of the pivotal points of the book. Now, I want to connect this to the promise I made you at the top, because the science is only half of it. The other half is the part nobody can do for you. By the time I was 24, after thousands of hours of research and trial and error, I had built a protocol for myself, and I promptly walked onto Wall Street a completely different human being than the girl who fell asleep on the strangers on the train. I was running 14, 16, 18-hour days. My whole trading desk wanted to know what I was taking. I was on fire. I had so much energy, I did not know what to do with it. That didn't happen because of one heroic decision. It happened because of 1,000 ordinary ones. Here's a rule I've built my life on. 21 days makes a habit. 60 days makes it a way of life. And a real way of life is effortless. You don't think about it. You're not struggling to comply. It has simply become who you are, and you are rewarded every day by feeling great, which means the woman or the man you will be a year from today is not being built by some dramatic gesture. They're being built right now on an ordinary Tuesday by whether you reach for the paper or the log, by whether you feed yourself or you feed the enemy. One decision looks like nothing. A year of them looks like a different life. And here's the part I need you to hear. As my crazy husband Anrik would say, this is not motivation. The body leads the mind. It is biochemistry. You cannot out-mindset a depleted body. You cannot think your way to clarity while your engines are running on dry paper. When your ATP is high and your inflammation is low, discipline gets easier, focus gets sharper, and the mindset work you're doing or planning to do on your magnum opus, suddenly it starts to stick. Health is not the reward at the end. Health is the floor you build everything else on. I know because I also learned it the hard way. Even after all of this, life knocked me down again and again. I had a brutal reaction to a medication once, put my body into a crisis. But because I had the information and I had the protocols, I could right the ship. That's the real gift of this work, because you can't always prevent an issue. But if you know what to do, you can turn it around on a dime. So let me draw the line all the way out to why we're here together today. You are here to build your magnum opus, your greatest work, the business, the legacy, the life on your own terms that only you can create. And here's the truth I will stake my name on. You cannot build it if you're exhausted. You cannot build it in a fog. You cannot live in your zone of genius if you don't have the energy, vitality, and cognition to get there. Energy, vitality, and cognition are not the destination. They're the building blocks of life and business on your terms. Without them, you cannot build your magnum opus. The Saving 7 is a 7-day roadmap that gives you those building blocks back. At the Magnum Vault, we build the magnum opus on 4 pillars. We call it the compass rose. First is Magnum Mindset. That's the resilient thinking to overcome obstacles and seize opportunities. Second is Magnum Wealth. That's the enterprise that creates lasting wealth aligned with your purpose and your zone of genius. Third is Magnum Nation. The right fit people, the right fit partners, the right fit employees and friends who become your tribe. And underneath all of them, holding them up, is Magnum Health. Peak vitality, cognitive process, unstoppable energy, and longevity as the foundation for all pursuits. Now, notice I said the word foundation. The other 3 pillars are extraordinary, but they are built on this one. Magnum Health is the vitality and the resilience to carry a great work that spans 10, 20, even 25 years. And I will say the thing I most want you to write down. Vitality is not a luxury. It is your most valuable business asset. The Saving 7 is your first toe in the water of Magnum Health. It is not the whole ocean. It is the first honest step, 7 days, 3 parts, a way of life, not a diet. We call it Life Fit because it gets you fit for the life that you want to build. And it begins by naming the one thing standing between you and the energy you were built to have. So consider this your invitation. The book is coming. When it lands, do not put it on the bookshelf with the other ones you meant to read. Open it. What I shared today is only one chapter of the whole book. But do not just read it, live it. Give the protocol one honest week and let your own body prove to you. Watch the fog lift, feel the energy come roaring back, and then take that energy, the energy you forgot you had, and pour it into everything you're trying to build. This is your chance to stop running on empty and start building on a full tank. So apply it. Show me what you create. I'd love to see it, and let's get started. And hear me on this. What I gave you today is the tip of the iceberg. One chapter, one villain, one thread, pulled out of a whole book. And the book itself is only the first step into Magnum Health. There is so much more coming. And I want you with me on the very start, from the very start on this journey. So here's the one thing I want you to do before you leave today. And it only takes 60 seconds. Go to saving7.com. That's spelled out, 2 words, saving7.com, and put your name on the list. That's the whole ask. It costs you nothing but your name and your email. And that one page is where everything comes to you first. The launch party is coming. And that is where it will be announced so that you will hear the date before anyone else. The day the book goes live, you'll be the first to know. And while you are right there, opt into the Launch Club on that same page, which puts you at the very front of the line. This is where I want my people to go first. Take that step today while the fire is still lit, because the raw materials of your life, all of it, the struggle, the research, the decisions you make on an ordinary Tuesday, that is what we turn into your masterpiece. That is Magnum Alchemy, the intentional shaping of your mission, your vision, and your values into the greatest work of your life. That is life and business on your terms. And it actually gives me like chills. I can't wait to hand you this book. Let's go to work, and God bless you.